Good morning, fellow Ghanaians. On 21st September, as this country paused to commemorate the birthday of Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, that man that gave us independence, the man who told us our destiny, was bound with the destiny of the continent. Something deeply troubling was unfolding. A group of Igbo Nigerians living peacefully in Ghana had planned to celebrate their annual Yam Festival, just as they've done on a few occasions in the past. It was to be a day of thanksgiving, of cultural expression, of joy, and a reminder of their roots. But they were stopped. The Ghana Police Service received a letter from the Ghana Traditional Council warning that the festival could, quote, breach the peace, and that Ghana must be careful not to, again, quote, import foreign culture. That, fellow Ghanaians, was bizarre, it was embarrassing, and it was a dangerous precedent to set. Because what exactly are we saying? That the people who live among us, who work here, who contribute to our economy and to our cultural mosaic, cannot celebrate their own culture in our land? Is that what we are becoming, that we see a Yam Festival as a threat? Or we think drumming and dancing and thanksgiving by Nigerians or any other people, for that matter, somehow will destabilize our peace? This is not about culture. What I submit is that this is about creeping xenophobia, slowly and quietly seeping into our national fabric. With all due respect, I must ask, is this not the same Ghana Traditional Council under the leadership of the Gamanche that proudly celebrated Homowa abroad just last year? The Gamanche himself was on the streets of London sprinkling kokoi in full Homowa celebration. Was that an importation of foreign culture into the United Kingdom? Did the British police stop that from going ahead? Of course not. They facilitated it. They provided security because they understood it for what it was, a harmless cultural festival that enriches diversity. And it's not just about the respected people of the Ghana community. The Ashantis celebrate Akwesida in Washington and other places, in Berlin. Ekuapems, they celebrate Ojura in Canada and in the Western world. Evers celebrate Owechocho in New York. Almost every major Ghanaian ethnic group has held its festivals abroad. No one calls that a threat. No one stops it. If anything, those festivals are celebrated and applauded. They showcase Ghanaian culture on global platforms. So why then do we, of all people, turn around and say our brothers and sisters from Nigeria cannot do same here? Fellow Ghanaians, this creeping suspicion of foreigners, particularly Nigerians, is shameful, and it undermines our history, our Pan-African identity, and our moral authority. Ghana is the land of Kwame Nkrumah, the land that championed African unity. Nkrumah did not fight for independence so that we could build walls between ourselves and our African brothers. He did not preach African liberation so that in 2025, we policing Yam festivals. He said clearly, quote, "The independence of Ghana is meaningless unless it is linked up with the total liberation of the African continent." That was not mere rhetoric. It was vision. And if that vision meant anything at all, then it means all of us must resist any slide into xenophobia. Because xenophobia does not arrive with machetes and guns. It arrives with whispers and suspicions. It arrives with subtle bans and denials. It arrives when people begin to say they are taking our jobs, they are taking our culture, they are a threat. And before long, those whispers become chants. Those suspicions become attacks. Shops will become what we see in South Africa, for instance, looted. People are killed. We have seen this movie in South Africa. Nigerians, Somalis, Zimbabweans, Ghanaians, all of us hunted on the streets because locals believed we were taking over. Is that what we want for this country? We must remember our own history. In 1983, Nigeria expelled Ghanaians en masse. Over 1 million of our people were forced out under cruel manner of Ghana must go. Families were uprooted, dreams were crushed. To this day, the phrase Ghana must go still evokes pain. But Ghanaians did not forget, and yet some of us seem eager to replicate that same cruelty against Nigerians. In fact, we did that proud with the Alien Compliance Order. Have we forgotten that millions of Ghanaians live in Nigeria today? The same people working, trading, and raising families. Do we want them to suffer reprisals because of our short-sightedness? Fellow Ghanaians, Nigerians are not our enemies. Yes, there are Nigerians who break our laws. So many foreigners who live in this country. So if foreigners of every nationality commit crimes, they must be punished. Criminality is not coded into nationality. Ghanaians commit crimes, Nigerians commit crimes. Everyone commit crimes everywhere. They must be dealt with. If anyone, Nigerian, Ghanaian, breaks our law, the solution is simple. You enforce the law, you prosecute them. You do not criminalize an entire people. Do not demonize their culture. Do not deny them their right to gather and celebrate peacefully. And to our traders who say Nigerians are taking over our markets, we have to be honest. The GIPC law is clear that foreigners cannot engage in petty retail. So you must enforce the law. But we must also admit the truth. Many Ghanaians themselves choose to buy from Nigerians and other foreign traders because of fairer prices, better customer service, and consistent stock. When the cedi gained strength some months ago, and many Ghanaian traders refused to reduce prices, even though they are quick to increase them when the cedi weakens, foreign traders, on the other hand, did not do so. They adjusted their prices downward, and customers responded. So perhaps instead of chasing foreigners from our markets, we should learn from them. Compete by treating customers better, not by hiding behind extortionate prices and going about doing the same thing that leads to this level of xenophobia. Fellow Ghanaians, what happened with the Yam Festival is a symptom of a broader sickness. Over the past few months, we have seen protests in Accra, targeting Nigerians, blaming them for crimes, painting them as a syndicate of lawlessness. We have seen traders threatening to sack Nigerians from Osagyefo. We have heard political leaders pandering to anti-Nigerian sentiment. And now we see traditional authorities joining the chorus. This is a slippery slope. It's not where we want to be. Today it's Nigerians. Tomorrow it could be Ivorians. The next day it will be Togolese. Where does it end? Do we really want to live in a Ghana where our neighbors feel unwelcome, unsafe, and unwanted? I submit to you, fellow Ghanaians, that this is beneath us as Ghanaians. This country has always been the land of hospitality. That is what we are known for. We have always opened our doors to our neighbors, and in return, we have been able to rely on them. In Côte d'Ivoire, millions of Ghanaians live and work. In Nigeria, the same thing, millions more. And across Europe and America, Ghanaians thrive because others allow us to express our culture freely. If we slam the door on our neighbors, on others who live here, we cannot expect others to also repay, to keep the doors open for us. Of course, we must be vigilant. Of course, we must enforce our laws. Of course, foreigners cannot do as they please, just like anyone cannot do on any foreign land. But there's a difference between law enforcement and xenophobia. One is legitimate, the other is poisonous. One strengthens the rule of law, the other does not. The other erodes our common humanity. Respectfully, I say this to the Ghana Traditional Council. They've hosted all of us here in Accra, those of us who are not Ghanaians. They've treated us fairly, and we respect them. But allowing Nigerians to celebrate a Yam festival is not a threat to Ghana tradition. It does not diminish Homowo. It does not weaken the authority of the Gamanche or any of the authorities, traditional authorities on Ghana land. It does not erase Ghana culture. If anything at all, it shows confidence. It shows that Ghana culture, like all Ghanaian cultures, is strong and enough to coexist with others. If our traditions can travel and thrive abroad, in the Western world, in London, in Berlin, in New York, then surely we can also allow our brothers and sisters from the African continent to also thrive in Accra. And to those politicians who see an opportunity in whipping up anti-foreigner sentiments, you must beware. The fire you stoke today will consume you tomorrow. Xenophobia is never controllable. Once unleashed, it burns indiscriminately. It will target Nigerians today, but tomorrow it will target Northerners or Evers or Ashantis or Ghana in our own country. That is the nature of hatred. It never stops. It continues and continues until it goes out of its lane. So fellow Ghanaians, we cannot go down this road. We are better than this. We are a people that must show hospitality. We are people of peace, of tolerance, of Pan-Africanism. Let us live to that. And we must remember that we are not just Ghanaians. We are Africans, just like our brothers and sisters. And we must embrace each other. And when we do that, we become stronger. When we divide, we are weaker. So fellow Ghanaians, the Yam Festival should have been celebrated. It should have gotten to the point where Nigerians would have felt welcomed on our land. It should have been an opportunity for cultural exchange, for joy, for fraternity. Instead, it became a symbol of suspicion. That is not Ghana. That is not the country we know. That is not the Ghana we must become. So I call on government, traditional authorities, civil society leaders, and all of us as a people. We must stop this creeping xenophobia before it gets out of hand, before it takes root. Enforce our laws. You must do that, but do not demonize entire people. Respect our traditions, but do not weaponize that against our neighbors. Let Ghana remain the beacon of African unity. Let the land that welcomes all continue to be that, the land that embraces, so that everyone will feel welcome in this country. For if we forget this, if we allow xenophobia to define us, then we betray Nkrumah's dream. We betray our history and our common goals as a people. We betray the very foundation of this continent, and we betray ourselves. So fellow Ghanaians, we must do better. We must get to the point where some of these things do not continue. We must welcome our brothers and sisters from across the world, and in particular, our brothers from across our borders. I'll see you again same time tomorrow. Good morning.